the second step of the 12-step program, applying 12 steps from Alcoholics Anonymous or Gamblers Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous or Emotions Anonymous to regular everyday life, everyday problems, is as follows. We came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Now, when we have a plumbing problem, we admit our own humility and we call a plumber to fix the faucet. When we have a electric problem, we call the electrician because I am not an expert in turning off the breaker and fixing the electric issue. When we have a legal problem, we go to a lawyer. I'm not an expert in the legalities of how to protect my rights. A medical problem, we show humility and we go to the doctor. Today, many people become Google doctors and diagnose their own ailments. This is a lack of humility. When it comes to a problem about a relationship, a problem at work, a problem of parenting, a problem of something which is bigger than yourself, a problem with a child at school or ADHD, you go to an expert, go to a psychologist, or you go to a higher power who is a self-help group, psychologist, psychiatrist, a mentor. And then the highest power to go to is to go to, if you believe in God, to go to the higher power, which is the creator of the universe. So this is in keeping, going to a higher power is in keeping with going to an electrician, going to a plumber, going to a lawyer, going to a doctor, going to a psychiatrist, going to God, leading to a higher power. The benefit of this is gaining a character trait called humility. If I am able to go to someone bigger than me, more knowledgeable than me, an electrician, a plumber, a lawyer, a doctor, psychiatrist, psychologist, or turning over my pain to God and say, God, higher power, please help me through prayer, then I gain a character trait called humility. And this affects my relationship and improves my relationship with other people, with my children, with my parents, with my spouse, with my boyfriend or girlfriend, because then I gain a sense of humility where I humbly ask and cooperate and coordinate with my others how to solve a particular problem. This makes me less aggressive, less angry, less negative, less argumentative, less angry, and become a person who has more humility, more compassion, able to relate to other people and solve problems. So therefore, this second step of turning my life over to a higher power to get back to sanity has a benefit of a relationship with above, someone higher than me, but it also affects my interpersonal relationships where I gain a sense of humility with other people. Does this mean that I turn my life over to God and not take responsibility? No. This idea of turning myself over to a higher authority, a higher power, means I do the best I can, and then I say, I've reached the end of my abilities, I turn myself over to God. In terms of addiction, when a person says, I have reached the end point where I have no power over my addiction, I turn over my issue, my lack of willpower to God, they have found that the creator of will, the creator of willpower, has been able to say, yes, I'm going to draw upon that higher power and give me the strength to overcome my negative willpower, to gain positive willpower and solve the problem of addiction. So too with life. If I have a problem with my spouse, problem with my children, problem with my parents, problem at work, and I try to work it out, but I can't work it out, turning to a higher authority, turning to God, is a sense of humility, and it gains a sense of ability to bring down wisdom that is not accessible to me in my so-called conscious state. So when we talk about turning yourself over to higher power, we turn ourselves over to the wisdom of ancient religion, ancient thought patterns, classical Jewish thought. In that fashion, we draw upon the ancient wisdom of the Torah, of the Bible, of the prophets, and we gain wisdom from that information. So going to a synagogue is not talking about becoming religious and giving up my power or my ability to think for myself. Rather, I gain wisdom. A rabbi means teacher. Rebbe, rabbi means teacher. Teacher of what? Teacher of the wisdom that they've studied. So we go to someone who has more wisdom than I do, someone who has studied more examples of history, of how people in past history have solved problems, addressed issues of interpersonal relationships. And then when I advise with a rabbi who has more experience, life experience, wisdom than I do, then I'm turning myself over to a higher power, higher wisdom of a person who has more wisdom than I do. And I humble myself before that wisdom. That's the benefit of turning myself over to a higher power and restoring myself to sanity.